This is an overview of Chapter 2. Chapter 2 focuses on the origins of corrections, the history of corrections, and how that history influences what we do today. Of course, there are many things that impact corrections today, and back then as well. Maybe not all of them affected corrections in the 16th, 17th, 18th centuries, but many of them did and continue to do so today. So here are some of the things that we know influence corrections. First of all, money. How much money does the federal government, if it's a federal prison system or a state, have to run its correctional system? That's a different question. That's a different answer for every state. How much money do they have to spend on corrections? In addition to that, religion often influences how we think about the way that people who commit crime should be treated when they are incarcerated. We also think about social control. How do we feel about social control? The way that society feels about that changes over time, and often it goes in a cycle where it starts very conservative, then becomes more progressive, but then eventually starts to shift back to more conservative. Also, class, race, age, gender, these also influence how we think and feel about punishment for different groups of people, depending upon what their class is, what their race is, what their age is, what their gender is. In addition to that, the architecture of these correctional facilities. How do we build them? What do the insides look like? What do the cells look like? What do the common areas look like? What do the yard areas look like? All of that has to do with how we think and feel about people who are going to be incarcerated. Also, a more recent, at least say in the last 50 years, phenomenon that probably wasn't true as much in the 17th, 18th, and 19th centuries is the issue of overcrowding. And in particular, California has a large problem with overcrowding in prisons. And so there have been some changes that the California legislature has made to try to ease the overcrowding. And some of these things perhaps have worked, some have not. We'll have an opportunity to think about that as we progress through the course. You'll also be introduced to some major thinkers that influenced how we operate the correctional systems we have today. People such as William Penn. William Penn was a Quaker, and Quakers, from my point of view, tend to be more compassionate toward people who screw up. And so his ideas were influential at a certain point in time. People such as John Locke, a philosopher, who also had ideas about what do we do with people who commit crimes. Jeremy Bentham, an English philosopher, John Howard, an English sheriff. These are people who had either some experience with correctional systems, early correctional systems, or they had thought long and hard about how these facilities are operated. And they had some very distinct ideas about how these correctional facilities should be operated. So as you move through this chapter, I hope that you think about which of these philosophers' ideas you agree with the most and why you agree with them. And think about, if you're a religious person, whether religion plays a role in how you think about correctional systems and how people should be treated in them. If you have some political stance, how does your politics play a role in how you think about this, etc.?